You're listening to the Balanced Educator Podcast, episode number 113.
Welcome to the Balanced Educator. We're your hosts, Kaylee
and Josiane from EduCalm. Our intention is to equip and empower you to feel more calm, balanced, and joyful in all aspects of your life.
Hello there and welcome. We are so happy to have you here with us today. Josiane and I are together on this episode.
Yay, so fun.
Doesn't happen very much anymore, but it is really exciting. We're actually together in person and loving life.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've been able to podcast together.
Yes, this is fun. So in today's episode, we are going to be talking about a topic that we're quite passionate about. We talk about this a lot, but we've never dedicated a whole episode to it. So we're doing it today. We're going to talk about the importance of routine and repetition for learning. We've touched on this a little bit in past episodes, but we're going to go into more detail today. Really excited to share this topic with you today. Before we get into the episode, very excited to share this week's sponsor, Time Timer. Time Timer is a visual timer that's clinically proven to help students, children to self-regulate. Guys, this timer is so awesome and so useful in the classroom. It's a visual timer, so it looks kind of like a stopwatch, and then you have this color wheel that you drag to go to the amount of time that you want to have on your timer, and then students get to watch that color disappear. So not only are they able to visually see time passing, it also is one thing that I love about this is that you can kind of see time as fractions. I think it really helps to understand, a quarter of an hour, half an hour, 3/4 of an hour. And so not only are students learning about time and time management, but they are also kind of integrating this understanding of fractions. These time timers are awesome. They have physical time timers, so you can have them. There's big ones that you can have kind of at the front of your classroom. There's smaller ones that you can have at students' desks. There's different colored ones. And what I'm super excited about is their desktop time timer. The desktop app is super awesome, really simple and easy to use, and you're able to set different timers with different names and different colors. So there's so many different ways you can use this in the classroom to help with classroom management, to help with time management, to help your students to stay focused and on task. This is just an awesome tool that I love using in my classroom. Definitely go check it out. Go to timetimer.com/educalm. Again, that's timetimer.com/educalm, which is spelled EDUCALME, to check them out and to purchase. All right, let's get into this episode about
Repetition.
repetition.
Yes. It is the key to everything.
It really is. So as we're talking about repetition, we're going to talk about this from two different angles. So we'll start about routines in the classroom and the importance of having really set routines and structures in your classroom and how that can help learning. And then we're going to get into the importance of just repetition when we're learning skills or when we're learning facts or when we're learning things in the classroom. So starting off by routines in the classroom. Josiane, can you give us an example of what, say for example, a morning routine looks like in your classroom?
Okay, I feel like as some of you may know, I think I mentioned it in one episode in the past, but I was teaching grades 1-2 this year. I think 2/3 of the school year, which was such a crazy experience. I have so much respect for teachers who teach K to 2, 3. Wow, what? Oh, it's just, I can't even describe.
I feel like you have to have a lot of energy for that age group.
But that was, you know, one of the reasons I really wanted to try these grades, and I got the opportunity to do this. And so keeping in mind that I came in halfway through the school year, or like a third of the way through the school year. So these kids like already had a routine before me. They already had, I think by the time that I taught them, they already had 2 teachers before me.
Wow.
So just a lot of change. So like really the first little while was all about routines. Like at that point, it was almost like forget academics and we're going to focus on getting our routines in, right? Because we can't really learn until we can free up space in the brain to learn.
Yes.
So, but like, for example, did you ask me what my morning routine was?
Yeah.
So it was very simple. I tried to keep it as simple as possible with this group.
Well, simple is better for all students.
Absolutely.
The less things they have to remember to do, the better.
Absolutely. But it was like simply they came in, if I started there in the winter, so they came in with all of their winter things, which is a whole other beast, but you know. Come in, put their stuff. They had lockers, so putting their winter things, their backpack in their locker, and then they had a pouch with their agenda in it and their guided reading books, bringing that in and sitting at their desk right away. And then they would write in their agenda right away. So that was like the thing they did before O Canada. And of course, bathroom, I would check with the students if they needed to go to the bathroom and drink water in that, because we know we need to do that before we start diving into learning. I learned very quickly with those age groups. And so that was it. And then it was O Canada, everyone stand up, announcements, and then we would do circle time right away.
Nice.
So very simple.
Yeah. So you talked a little bit about having set routines that we can free up space in the brain. So I'm going to jump into that now.
Oh, yes.
So
Kaylee, the science gal, my favorite.
So when the brain is doing something new, it takes a lot more energy. Our brain is always looking for patterns in what we do during the day so that it can kind of memorize those patterns so that we don't have to consciously think about it. And our body just goes through the motions without having to think about it. So as soon as we do anything repetitively in our day, and I think any of us can think of like our own personal routines, like when you wake up in the morning, what does your body just do? Like what are the actions you start taking automatically without even thinking about it? Whoops, that was my dog Nova making her appearance, saying hi. Everyone say hi to Nova. So what I was saying is that our brain is always looking for patterns, because anytime we're doing something new, it takes a lot of brain energy. It takes a lot of calories. It takes a lot of work to have to think about every step of that process. So as soon as our brain sees a pattern, it takes it from the conscious thinking of every step and kind of memorizes those steps in our body. So our body just goes through the motions. So the best example of this, I always think, is like driving to work. The first time that you drove, you really had to pay attention. You had to pay attention to the stop signs, the speed limit, all these things. And then after a few times, you'll get to work and be like, how did I get here? Did I stop at that stop sign? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I don't know if that was safe or not. Okay, moving on. So we actually have like a whole episode about this though.
Yes, definitely check out. We have actually a whole series where we talked about habits and how the brain creates habits.
Which to this day are our most downloaded episodes. You have to listen to this series. It starts with episode 74. Avoid teacher burnout, how to create good habits that will last throughout the school year. So go check it out.
Yes.
And yeah, that's the first of the series of 5.
Very informative. So I just have like a little personal experience of this and it really becoming clear to me. So this past summer, my husband and I bought our first house and we moved in. It was so exciting. So we're back in Winnipeg and I'm teaching in high school again. It's going to be an exciting year. Very happy. But in the first couple weeks of living here, I felt exhausted all the time because I had to think of where things were. I had to be like, okay, where are the cups?
Or even
where did
your
I put?
routine?
Yeah.
Like, okay, wait, where do I shower? Do I shower here or there? Or where?
Exactly. So like I was working the like second week after we moved in, and I was like half an hour late for work one day because I'm like, I couldn't find my clothes. I couldn't find this. I kept having to run up and down the stairs because one thing was here, the other thing was there. My routines weren't set in place, and that was exhausting on my brain. But now that we've been here for a month now, I know where everything is. My body goes through the motions and it's easy. So that really made me come back to the importance of routines in the classroom.
Yes, no kidding. Like, how exhausting could it be for our students if we as the teacher don't establish proper ingrained routines?
Yeah. Every day they're coming into the classroom not knowing what to expect, not knowing where to go, knowing where to put things.
And then we wonder why students aren't as good with subs.
Yeah.
Right? Why do we think?
Because if they don't know the routines, then they don't know what they're supposed to do.
If it's not like a regular sub, yeah. It's
exactly.
Yeah.
So when we have really specific concrete routines, especially during transition moments in the classroom, we're setting our students up for success because we are helping their brain to take that conscious effort that in the beginning, it's hard, right? The beginning of the school year, establishing routines is a struggle.
It's tiring.
Yeah. You have to repeat yourself over and over. You have to help your students. But once it sinks in, all of a sudden we've freed up all this brain energy in our students and all this time because it just becomes natural and second nature. And now we have more time for teaching, and those transition times shrink up and take less of our energy.
And actually, that makes me think right away of when you taught grade 5 and it was your first time teaching a grade that low, because you were always in the higher up grades, right? And you came into the classroom, I think like halfway through the year or something too, because you and I just always take little terms, right? Just with the business and everything. And you like came to me and you're like, oh my goodness, how do I get these kids into a routine?
Yeah, it was a struggle. I just felt like it was taking them a really long time to understand the routine, to get it established. And you gave me a couple pointers that were so helpful. One of them was just to have the lights off when they came in the morning. That really helped because they would come in the morning with so much energy. They're just bouncing off the walls. So just having the lights low really helped to lower the mood. And then you gave me the suggestion of having the routine as steps up on the board. So all the lights were off, but then the projector was on. So that was the thing that drew your eye was the projector, because that was the only place the light was coming from. And I could see how quick it was working because I saw my students looking at the board and then doing step 1, and then they would look at the board again and do step 2. I definitely had to help some students and remind them, okay, what's next? Which step are you on?
And some students, you'll always have to do that.
And that's normal. But like overall, that was so helpful to have those steps of the routine visually there for them. And my teaching would, instead of kind of chasing student after student, being like, what are you doing? What's next? I would stand at the front and be like, okay, where are you at on the list? And that also helped with time management too.
And such small things like that can take a routine from taking like 20, 30 minutes to 5 minutes, right? With time, once it's practiced a lot, repetition, back to repetition. Repetition is key.
Yeah. And the same is true when you're doing a mindfulness practice in the classroom. If that repetition and that routine is there, that you follow kind of the same structure every day. Okay, right after morning announcements, we sit in a circle, we do our 5-minute Educom Classroom mindfulness audio, then we have our morning discussion. Yeah. And if you stick to that routine for a while, you'll see that it will get easier for students. Those transitions will get shorter. They know what's coming. They know what to expect. And it's just easier on everyone.
With my grades 5, 6s in the past, which I will also be teaching again this year, but I would do the mindfulness audios right after O Canada. But with the grade 1s, I just found doing circle time, seeing how they were doing, and then setting them up for the mindfulness audio worked so well. But still, that routine. Just thought I would say that if we have anyone in the audience who does mindfulness with their grade K to 2 students. That's what worked well for me. So just putting it out there.
Yeah, it's definitely important as you're creating routines to be flexible when you're noticing that something isn't working and trying to find a solution. But you also kind of just have to stick with something for a while. You just have to stick with a structure. Definitely like give it a week, give it 2 weeks with a specific,
say more than a week for sure.
Yeah, depending on the age. And, you know, if you can see that there's something you can do to improve it, definitely do that along the way, but really stick to that structure because it takes time for the brain to recognize the routine. And once the brain recognizes the routine, it puts it into the body. It's like you're downloading it into your body and now your body is in charge and your brain
knows what to do.
Yeah, and your brain is free to think of other things. So really important to stick to that routine.
And just a side note too on that, like even involving the students in what the routine will be can be really helpful too.
Oh, definitely.
So,
Giving them
total side note. But.
Yeah. Giving choice is always so important.
Making them part of the conversation.
Exactly. And yeah, sometimes you'll have a group, every group of students is different. So sometimes you'll have a group that just really doesn't, you know, feel that they need to have a bathroom break first thing in the morning. So you don't have to do that, but instead they want to do the bathroom break right before recess or something like that. You know, having that input from them can be really helpful in creating those routines and then knowing that you can stick with them and having the students on board with them as well. So sticking to routines in the classroom, so important because what is happening in the brain. Now, next thing that we want to talk about is repetition. So not only is routine important, but repetition in what we teach and looping what we're teaching is so important for learning. So when we're talking about learning in the brain, I always love to give an example of if you're learning something new, it's like you're in a big field with really deep snow and you have to walk from one side of the field to the other. Now, the first time that you walk, the first time that you're learning something new, it's really tough. Walking through that deep snow is really difficult.
Do you have anything to compare to for those who do not live where there is snow, which is many of the people in our audience?
You're not all from Canada, eh?
Hey.
So another example could be if you're in a forest and no one's ever walked through that forest before. There's no trail at all. So the first time you're walking through, you don't know exactly where you're going. There's a lot of brush in your way. You're having to step over big logs. It's uncomfortable, it's difficult, and it takes a lot of energy. Now, the second time you walk that path, well, you've walked that path once before, so you can kind of see where you're supposed to go. It's a little more clear. The path, you know, you've stamped down some of those trees and twigs that are not in your way or in the snow. You've packed it down a little bit, so at least you can step on those footprints that were there before. So it's a little bit easier. And every time you go back on that path, you're deepening and widening the path. So it gets easier and easier and easier. That is the path to learning, and that's what happens in our brain. So when we're learning something new, we're making a neural connection. We are creating a connection from one brain cell, one area in the brain, all the way to another area in the brain. It's exactly like we're creating a path. It's exactly like we're doing walking through the forest or walking through the snow. First time it's hard. We've never gone that way before. But the more we do it, the stronger those connections become. So there's this saying in neurology, the neurons that fire together, wire together. So the more those those brain cells are firing together to do this new task, to learn this new skill, to learn this new thing, the more strong they are wiring together. Now, the opposite is true. So the less we do something, the less strong those connections become. So say there's, something, I'll give an example. I used to be a gymnast, so I practiced gymnastics every day. So it was very easy for me to do certain moves. Now I'm in my 30s now. It's been a very long time since I've been a gymnast. I just can't do those things that I was able to do before because those connections have been lost. Or, if you're trying to remember a fact that you knew really well when you were in grade 8, but now you can't quite remember it, or it's because if you're not using that neural connection, your brain goes, oh, this isn't important. We're not using it.
Yes.
Let's sweep it away. Let's give energy to the neural connections that we are using the most. Our brain is so efficient. It's trying to be efficient.
This is why we in the classroom focus on numeracy and literacy every single day. Like, how much do we repeat the same teachings over and over and over again? Like, I'm just thinking in middle school, kids learn multiplication, or when I was teaching grade 1, we were practicing base, addition, and subtraction. This wasn't like I did a lesson and then it was like, okay, you're good now.
Yeah.
This is something that we worked on for months and months, and often throughout the whole year. Like, even if they had it, we would still bring it back every once in a while just to make sure we're not forgetting, over and over and over again. And how many multiplication games did I create and play with the kids, do centers, this and that. And it's a game, but really it's the same concept that they're learning over and over and over and over again.
Exactly. And the same is true with mindfulness. When we're teaching mindfulness in the classroom, it has to be part of the routine, part of the repetition, the daily repetition, because they're building skills, they're building focus, they're building body awareness, they're building breathing strategies, they're building emotional intelligence, they're building all these awesome skills that have to be practiced over and over and over. Now, the same is true. Another example from my life. So with the move, I fell out of my mindfulness practice, and I got to the point that I woke up one day and I was feeling so anxious. And I was like, I don't understand why I'm feeling anxious. Like, there's nothing going on. Like, why aren't I feeling calm and centered and like I can enjoy the moment? And then, the light bulb went off. I haven't been doing my daily mindfulness practice. If you don't use it, you lose it. So that was a really good reminder of how important it is to keep practicing so that the brain keeps using those neural connections, keeps them strong, keeps them healthy, and keeps them ready for you to use. So when we're teaching mindfulness in the classroom, that repetition is so important, just like how we practice reading every day in the classroom. And over the course of the year, you're seeing huge growth, huge learning, huge expansion. But that repetition is so key.
Yeah, because social emotional learning it's not something that you can just do a lesson on and be done. It has to be every day. It has to be like literacy, numeracy, just a daily activity.
It's a skill.
And that's why in our program, EduCalm Classroom, our online program for the classroom, we created it in a way that students are hearing the same audio 5 times. It's because they need to hear it at least 5 times to actually let the information sink in.
Yeah. And that might be boring for students.
Just like some students don't like reading every day.
Exactly. Or just like they don't like doing multiplications every day. It's normal.
Yeah, we've already done this.
Yeah, exactly. It's normal for kids to see repetition as boring. It's normal for lots of people to see repetition as boring.
But
and it's normal
crucial
for adults too to feel like mindfulness is boring sometimes. I mean, you're sitting
it is
still.
for me sometimes.
Yeah.
But it is crucial to the growth and to the like you say, the firing of the
neurons.
The wiring of the firing of the neurons. You know what I'm trying to say?
Neurons that fire together, wire together.
Yes.
You got it.
Actually, okay, cute little story too with my grade 1s and 2s this year. So I wanted my first week there, I of course brought up mindfulness right away. Taught them the French word, la pleine conscience. We practiced it together. And the first skill I taught them, which is also what we encourage anyone else who wants to kind of dip their toes into this, is to teach them the 5-finger breathing, which you've probably heard it a million times already. We talk about this strategy on the podcast often, but it's just breathing as you trace your hand, so your fingers. So the first week I was there, and keeping in mind again that the students had like different teachers, different routines throughout the year, and then I come in, right? So we needed a tool to bring us back to focus. Like that was number one essential thing to do with this group. So I taught them 5-finger breathing. And so I would say the first 3 days, the kids were probably like rolling their eyes because I was stopping them every probably 10, 15 minutes to do 5-finger breathing with them. So every transition and then in the middle of lessons sometimes, or like between teaching a lesson and then getting them to work on something, which I learned quickly in grade 1 too. You change activities like every 10 minutes. So there was 5-finger breathing every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. It was pretty crazy. They probably thought it was completely crazy. But then after a week, I would just do 5-finger breathing without saying anything. So I just started like without saying, okay, les amis, we're going to do this thing. I would just start doing it. And then because they already knew the routine, they would just join in. And so I did that for a good while, probably a couple weeks, until I would notice that all the kids would join in. And then after that, I started noticing that the kids were just using it on their own. And the cutest little thing, one student came one day after recess, and he had some issues at recess with a friend, and he was just so wound up. And then I just checked in with him, like, how are you doing? He's like, I think I need to do 5-finger breathing. So he just did it. And there was no, like, the only prompting was like, how are you doing? Like basically, I don't remember exactly what I asked, but something about like, how can we help you right now or whatever? And then he did his 5-finger breathing, and then he was all calm again.
I love
and
that.
Was able to talk to the friend after that, which was amazing.
That's so awesome.
So, but it was such a gradual thing. And it was like, I kid you not, I was doing it like probably 20 plus times a day those first couple days.
Yeah.
Repetition was so important in this learning.
Yeah. So important. So important for everything. And when we're trying to teach mindfulness in the classroom, the goal is to help students to self-regulate, really, right? We want them to be able to manage, feel their emotions, understand their emotions, and have strategies to manage their emotions in a healthy way that is acceptable for themselves, that's safe for themselves, and safe and acceptable for the rest of the students in class. So if we're wanting them to learn this skill to be able to manage their own emotions independently or with a little bit of help, then they need that repetition over and over of what are the strategies? How do we do this? So they need to practice it many times before they go, oh, okay, I'm going to use this on my own without prompting.
So you're probably all tired of us saying repetition is key, but let's just say it a couple more times.
Repeat it a few more times.
Repetition is key, ladies and gentlemen.
It really is. So the teachers that have reported having amazing success with EduComm Classroom, like the most success, everyone definitely like sees results in their classroom, but the ones that have been just floored with the results are the ones that have the most routine and repetition, the ones that have it set on their schedule to do their mindfulness practice. They're using the EduComm audios every day at a specific time. They find that students know the routine, they get into it, so much time is saved throughout the day, and then students are able to use those strategies that they're learning, those skills that they're gaining, those neural connections that they've created of when I'm feeling a big emotion, what strategies do I have to manage those emotions? So routine, repetition.
Repetition is key. So your exit ticket for today is to try it out. Try out this repetitive, in a good way, free trial of EduComm Classroom.
Yeah. Go to educalm.com and get the free trial. You'll have access to our first unit of our EduComm Classroom Social Emotional Learning program. It's called Introduction to Mindfulness, and that's going to give you audios for at least a month.
At least, yeah.
Probably 5 weeks. So you'll have daily audios to listen. You can make it part of the daily routine. You have 2-minute audios or 5-minute audios to choose from. So you can build up to 5 minutes if you want to do it that way, and maybe even use it longer than a month. And then if you really enjoy it and it feels like a good fit for your classroom, then you can sign up for the program and get a lesson ready to use for every single day of the entire school year.
No prep.
Woo!
Best part.
We love hearing that.
Yes.
All right. We really enjoyed chatting with you today
I enjoyed
together.
chatting with you too, Kaylee.
I enjoyed chatting with you, Josiane.
It's been a while. It's been a while.
All right. Have a fantastic week. If you got value from this episode, definitely share it with a friend or a colleague that you think would like it too. And take care.
Bye.